Hi guys, my name is Sam Pierce and this is OneSimpleMan. Thank you for watching this week's video. We had a little bit of snow this week, so I thought I'd come out and use the scenery. I guess you guys are tired of looking at my wall. So I want to talk to you today out of Psalms. We're going to look at Psalms 139, 14 through 18. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul. I will praise thee, for I love editing software. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. My substance was not hid from thee, when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God! How great is the sum of them! If I should count them, they are more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with thee. So, in the middle of that, we come across a phrase that we hear used a lot. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, what you have to understand about that, that's not a fear that's like afraid of being shot or being robbed or whatever. It's a fear of like, you do something carefully, not that you're afraid of it, but you want to make sure that you get it right. You get every little piece done the right way, and there's almost a fear to that. That's the kind of sense of the word that's being used here. Now, if God put that much care into making us and got the little details right, what does that say? What does that mean about us? So God doesn't have a human factory. He's not just pumping us out the same way. We're not making everybody the exact same. Or even, like, I used to think this, that it was just a random, luck of the draw thing. You had got a handful of humans here, just let's throw them out and see where they land, and that's what it is. But He takes the time to make our details and make them right. And our details are not just the good things about us. It's everything, every little bit of what makes us us. Now, with that comes a responsibility. You are not just a unique and beautiful snowflake. You are a very detailed piece of a machine. Each one of us is made the way that we are to fit in the certain specific place that we are put. And I recently got a new job. I'm now installing satellite dishes. I had a service call a couple weeks ago where, this person wasn't getting good signal. Their system wasn't working the way it was supposed to. I looked at it, did a few small tests, couldn't really figure out what was going on. What it turned out was that the dish, the reflector, the round part, was warped. You couldn't tell that it was warped just by looking at it, because it was such a small difference from the outside. But it was having a huge impact on the whole system. It kept the entire system from running the way it should. And the same thing relates to us. This is why you can't look at someone that you admire and try. I mean, it's fine to be inspired by someone and to see what they do and, take your cues from them, but don't try to be that person. It'll be the same thing as that dish. You may look the same from the outside, but you can't do the job that God gave them to do. If He needed another one of them, that's what He would have made you. He needs a you. You need to be you. We have and sometimes what looks like success to us in someone else's life may not be. They may be rich, may have a nice car or whatever, but maybe that's not what they were called to do. It looks great to us, but if they're not fulfilling their purpose, they are not successful. And the reason this is so important, it's not just, I'm not trying to make this just a generic, you don't have to change, just be who you are, it's wonderful, it's great. But the reason this is so important is because look at the biggest things that have happened in your life. I'd be willing to bet that most of them were not done just in one huge fell swoop. But if you look at it carefully, there's a lot of small, what look like random events leading up to it. And that's how God works. He doesn't just if he wants a building taken down, I mean, most of the time, it does happen sometimes, he doesn't just, smack a tornado on it and blow it away. I could do that with a bomb. That's not impressive. What's impressive is he takes, there's someone who wants the building taken down. I call someone who their livelihood is demolishing buildings, and they happen to have a free slot on their schedule. And all of these little, you go on, all these little things come together to bring that down. To me, that's more impressive. But every major move of God has been like that. It's not just the big, impressive, showy thing. It comes from people who sometimes don't, their names aren't attached with it, no one knows who they are. People doing little things that bring this about. And I mean, I've seen this financially in my life. Like, I'll have something come up that I want to spend money on, and it seems to be a good thing because it seems like something that I need or something to help someone. And, I'll kind of feel in my spirit, no, hang on to that. You're going to need it. And the next day, something will come up. I had something like this happen over the weekend. Let's look at Exodus 2:11 through 15 for an example of that. Hands are too cold to turn pages. And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and he looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day, and when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killedst the Egyptian? And Moses feared, saying, Surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now, Moses came upon a situation where he thought that he did what he thought was best to try to help out his fellow Hebrew. And what really made the difference here is not the fact that he killed the Egyptian. It's how he reacted to it. There were plenty of people who might have stayed and tried to avoid being captured in Egypt, or maybe even turn themselves in. But something about Moses, something about his personality and the way he thought, made him leave and go to Midian. And if you know your Bible, it was after he left Egypt and was wandering around that God spoke to him and sent him back to bring the Hebrews out of the Egyptian slavery. He did what he thought was best and didn't get the job done. He killed 1 Egyptian and saved 1 Hebrew for probably 1 day. And after he left and got that word from God, I'm sure he didn't think there was anything else he could do to help out his country, his people. Once he turned that over to God, and God showed him how he was supposed to do the job, he was sent back to do it. If he hadn't been the kind of person who would have left Egypt when that happened, that wouldn't have happened. There was a reason that God wanted him to be out on that mountain. And this is something for another time, but if you look at a lot of these things, a lot of the times that God has spoken to people and given them really powerful and important missions, they've been on a mountain. That's another story. That's another video. But the point is, don't let anyone make you feel bad about the person you are, and don't try to be other people. You are you for a reason, and you have a job to do, and you are perfectly and fearfully and wonderfully made for that job. And if you don't do it, who's going to? You are the only person who is equipped for that job. You, out of 7 billion people that are on this planet right now, you are the only one who can do what God has called you to do. Don't you think it's worth looking into? Pray about it. Seek God's will for your life. There is something for everyone to do. It may not be something big and flashy and important, but it needs to be done. And it's no less important than anything else that's been done. The only difference between an actor and a director in a movie as far as the level of detail and work that goes into it, is you see the actor on the screen. The director is still just as important, but they don't get the recognition. Something to think about. My media recommendation this week is Identity by Lecrae. It's a good song. I'll put a link for it down in the description below. Check it out. Until next time, my name is Sam Pierce. I am One Simple Man, serving an awesome God. See you guys next week. Ciao.